Immunity protects officer, City of Akron, from claims after cruiser crashes into four cars in Highland Square. Officer found to be at fault and violated department policy. But of course, also, analytics say that 95% of the people that are watching these videos are not subscribed. So, like, what are you waiting for? It's free. Subscribe. An Akron police officer was found to be at fault for an accident in Highland Square that smashed up four cars in a department, and a department investigation revealed he violated policy. Ooh, that'll learn him. It won't. However, he will not have to pay for the damage done to the vehicles, and it appears neither will his employer, the City of Akron. He's not going to be responsible for it. The city that pays him is not going to be responsible for it. You know who's going to be responsible for it? The taxpayers are going to be responsible for it. And the taxpayers are going to be responsible for their own cars, too. Stephen Rockich has been fighting to get money from the city since October 2024, when his Mazda was crushed in the police-involved incident in Highland Square. I understand they need to do their job, but the city needs to be accountable for that and actually pay for the damages that they caused, Rockich said. They will not. Video from cruiser cameras, body-worn cameras, and city-owned cameras along West Market Street captured the chaos that unfolded just after 1 a.m. on October 20th. According to Akron police, two officers were traveling at a high rate of speed on their way to a burglary call. The dash camera was recording as the officer, who was behind the wheel, swerved to avoid a car making a U-turn on West Market Street, just east of Conger Avenue. The cruiser then slammed head-on into a car parked along the street's curb, causing a chain reaction crash that damaged three other parked cars. The officer who was driving called out the code for an accident. We've got a signal 8 in Highland Square, because, you know, they got to have codes and shit. They can't just say, hey, I just fucked some shit up. I mean, Central, there's been an accident. The officers and the man who was getting out of one of the parked cars was injured and treated in Akron hospitals. Now, I wonder if they paid for the guy that got hurt, or probably not. Rockich was working in Highland Square that night and was stunned by what he saw. I could not believe my eyes. I was like, what the heck, he said. Rockich's car, which was paid off, was totaled and without personal collision insurance. He was stuck with the bills on top of the aggravation. The towing that I had to pay out of pocket was over $600. $600. See, here's what happens. The towing companies are on rotation with the police department. And then whatever the towing company pays, the police department going to get some kickbacks from that for picking, out of all the towing companies, they'll pick like 3 of them. And then I get kickbacks from them. The towing company that I had to pay out of pocket was over $600, and then my car was worth over $5,000. So it's all out the window, just smashed, Rockich said. The police report shows the officer was in error, meaning he was at fault for the crash. He responded with overhead lights, but the report indicates that the sirens were not activated until the officer spotted another car making a U-turn. City spokesperson Stephanie Marsh said the officer involved has been found to violate the policy and is in a pre-disciplinary process currently. Here's how this works. They'll bring him in and they'll be like, yo, you fucked some shit up, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to see what insurance is going to do. And if insurance pays, we're going to have to scratch a little note in your jacket. Your jacket's your personnel file. They got to be all cool and cute and call it some shit jacket. They scratch it in your jacket. But if insurance don't pay, you good. The statement does not explain exactly how the officer violated policy. Well, I'll tell you how he violated policy. He was driving too fast for conditions. He was outrunning he only had lights on. He only activated his siren when he almost hit that car. And even if he had lights and sirens on, here's how it works. If you're driving down the road, typically you'll hear a siren before you'll see anything. And you hear a siren and your brain says, ooh, siren, emergency, stop, look, listen. When they are driving, it's called outrunning your lights and sirens. Lights come into play more so at night, lights and sirens. If you're driving so fast, by the time somebody has time to react to it, there's been an accident, you're outrunning your lights and sirens. And that is exactly what he did. He was driving so fast that even by the time somebody would have recognized what was going on, it would have been too late. Do they care? No, they have qualified immunity. Rockich expects the city to pay for the damage, especially since he had zero involvement in the crash. However, he hasn't received a penny and likely won't. They said that they're not going to pay anything for what just happened because it's full immunity. Told you, full immunity. In November, Rockich received a letter from Selective Insurance, the city's insurance provider, indicating it was denying his claim based on immunity for the city. So here's how it works. They cause a vehicle crash. They call a tow company. Now you're paying for their car. You're paying for their salary. They cause the crash. They call a tow company that they're getting kickbacks from to tow your car. Insurance company says, he has immunity, so we're not paying anything. So you're paying for all of this, even the insurance, because your taxes go to pay law enforcement, and then they got to pay insurance, and insurance pays out nothing. But now you got to pay for your car. You got to buy a new car. You got to pay all your insurance. So get another job because they're going to need some more money. They tore up a car too. In the statement from Marsh, she said the city's insurance provider has denied claims in this incident based on immunity. However, the conversations internally remain ongoing, and the matter is still open. University of Akron law professor Michael Alphabet said in most cases the state statute in Ohio provides immunity to officers who cause crashes while on the job. The immunity can extend to employers. In this case, the city of Akron, of course, because the city pays him, and he's not gonna be in trouble, and he's not in trouble. We're not in trouble. How is anybody in trouble? The immunity covers at least negligent conduct by the officers, but if the officer's conduct is willful and wanton, it might amount to liability. Alphabet said, okay, willful and wanton. I would argue, based on my experience, that is willful and wanton. They throw all kind of legal terms and shit out there. It's intentional, reckless, and shows disregard for the safety of others. It was intentional. He was flying down the road. It was reckless. He had no sirens on, and even the lights, he was out running it, and it was a disregard for everybody that was on the road. How is that not willful and wanton? Alphabet said the argument for immunity is to prevent officers from worrying about liability while working. They should worry about it. They should have to pay for this shit out of their own pocket. Every time they get in that car, they should have to worry about what shit they're going to tear up and what shit they might have to pay for. If they had to foot the bill once in a while, they might be a little more careful with shit they're not paying for. We don't want officers hesitating to respond in emergency situations. We want them to do their job. He said, there was a burglary or something. Like there's not already 4, 5, 10, or 12 other ones driving 9,000 miles an hour going to the same place. You do not have to drive that fast. Willful and wanton, because they have immunity. There is no reason, and you're going to see the video here in a minute, to be driving that fast. Because of what happened, Rockich had to buy another used car, a Mazda. His monthly payments are $300. He recently took a new job driving for Uber. What am I to do? I have to try to cover a $13,000 car loan, he said. But what Rockich really wants is for Akron to reconsider paying him for the money he lost. I hope the city actually can have a heart. We follow through, continue. They won't, because if they pay you anything, then they have to admit that they were at fault. And trust and believe they are not about admitting fault for anything. So, here's one.
A chain reaction crash in a busy Akron neighborhood. The driver at fault? An Akron police officer in a cruiser.
Somebody hit 4 cars on the street, and my car was one of the cars.
An investigation revealed the officer violated department policy. But he's not paying the victims for the damage done to their cars, and neither is the city.
If cops smashed in any of the cars, I feel like...
Also, kids, can we stop with the fucking tattoos? You look just pure stupid. It's hard to take anybody serious that looks like this. Sorry. I get it. They wronged you, but please stop.
Cops should just be paying right now.
News 5's Bob Jones first told us about this in October. He's following through tonight with new video from inside the cruiser showing what happened and the frustration that lingers 3 months later.
Cruiser video from last October captured the case.
See how fast he's driving? See all the lights that are on here? See how the lights from the businesses, he has lights on, but lights aren't necessarily doing anything. especially when he's driving that fast. The lights are a second thought with all the lighting that already exists. Now, had he had a siren on, that's a audible racket, chances are people would be like, hey, wait, do I hear a siren? Let me kind of look around. That might have got some attention. Likely as fast as he was driving, by the time it got somebody's attention, it'd be too late. He is outrunning his lights, and he only puts a siren on at the last second to let this car make a U-turn say, hey, yo, I'm about to fuck your world up.
Chaos in Highland Square. Two Akron police officers going at a high rate of speed on West Market Street on their way to a burglary call. The officer behind the wheel swerves to avoid a car making a U-turn.
Right here. And at this point, this car has to be going, holy fuck, what is going on here?
And then smashes into a parked car.
23. He's got a signal 8.
The impact injured the officers and set off a chain reaction crash, damaging 3 other parked cars, including Stephen Rockich's Mazda.
I could not believe my eyes, man. I was just like, what the heck?
Stephen's car, which was paid off, now totaled, and without personal collision insurance, he was stuck with the bills on top of the aggravation.
The towing that I had to pay out of pocket was over $600, and then my car was worth over $5,000. So that's all out the window, just smashed.
Investigations revealed the officer was at fault and was responding with overhead lights, but didn't activate sirens until that other car was spotted making a U-turn.
Didn't even bother to activate sirens. Why? Because why take the extra step? What's the point? Nothing's gonna happen to me. I have qualified immunity, and suck it up, citizens. That's the way it goes. Now, don't you be out here doing this shit, because you're gonna get all kind of tickets. You're gonna have to pay for all kinds of shit.
The city says the officer violated policy and is in the pre-disciplinary process.
You can't just, slap on the wrist, oh, bad job, you know what I mean?
They can. That's exactly what they'll do. They'll be, I'm going to follow this one, and I'm almost betting you there will be 0 repercussions for any of them. And next week, they'll be driving around in a new car.
That's not enough.
Stephen expected the city would pay for the damages to his car, but
I'm just blown away.
He hasn't received a penny.
And they said that they're not going to pay anything for what just happened because it's full immunity.
In a statement from the mayor's office, Akron confirms the city's insurance provider has denied claims in this incident based on immunity. The statement also said,
Told you. The city's insurance provider has denied claims in this incident based on immunity. However, the conversations internally remain ongoing. The matter is still open. The officer involved has been found to violate policy and is in a pre-disciplinary process currently. APD has been conducting roll call trainings on operational policy relating to police cruisers, and APD leadership is looking at how to strengthen that. I don't know what, I won't go away.
However, the conversations internally remain ongoing, and the matter...
Anyway, something about some outcomes. Anyway, nothing will happen to him. This is some bullshit statement because they have to put something out and make it look like they give a shit. They do not.
Is still open. University of Akron law professor Michael Gentithis says in most cases, state statute in Ohio provides immunity to officers who cause crashes while on the job. Immunity that can extend to their employers.
Oh, shit.
Akron police officer.
Damn it.
The matter is still open. University of Akron law professor Michael Gentithis says in most cases, state statute in Ohio provides immunity to officers who cause crashes while on the job. Immunity that...
Why? Because this is the standards. Overweight and we never shave anymore. This is the fucking standards. There are no standards.
Can extend to their employers, in this case, the city of Akron.
The immunity covers at least negligent conduct by the officers, but if the officer's conduct...
The immunity covers negligent conduct. Let that sink in.
...was willful and wanton.
It is willful and wanton. How is it not willful and wanton? Somebody explain to me how it is not willful and wanton. Intentional? I would argue it's intentional. He intentionally drove that fast. He had lights on and no sirens. And reckless. How is that not reckless? He was driving too fast for conditions and disregard for the safety of others. That was a total and blatant disregard for anybody.
it might amount to liability.
Gentithis says the argument for immunity is to prevent officers from worrying about liability.
Again, they should worry every single time they touch anything taxpayers pay for.
We don't want officers hesitating to respond in emergency
Yes, we do. Slow the fuck down. There's more than one of you responding.
circumstances. We want them to do their jobs.
I understand they need to do
That is not their job. That is not their job. That is willful and wanton disregard.
their job, but the city needs to be accountable for that and actually pay for the damages that they cause.
Because of what happened, Stephen had to buy a new car and has $300 a month payments. He hopes the city will reconsider paying him for some of the money he lost.
I hope the city just actually can have a heart.
In Akron, Bob Jones, News 5.
Now, there's another video right here. I don't know if it's the same one or not.
I was just in shock, honestly. I didn't know what to think of it. I was just like, man, I just know I just need a new car now.
A chain reaction crash that left behind a trail of damage and a lot of questions.
I just walked out and it was super, super crowded, full of people. I mean, literally this whole street was full of cops.
The driver behind the wheel, a police officer in a cruiser, crashing into parked cars.
I think,
Look at all that damage that everybody but the guilty party has to pay for.
people deserve some answers and some context.
So we'll try. Now, this all happened in Akron's Highland Square neighborhood, and while there were only minor injuries, you can see all the damage to the vehicles. It was major. 2 were total. Now, the owners of those cars want answers. How fast was that cruiser going? Did the officer follow policy? And will the city pay for the damage? Bob Jones looks into all of it in a story you'll see only on News 5.
It's just after 1 a.m. on October 20th when residents and people out for a night of fun in Highland Square are startled by the sights and sounds of an Akron police cruiser slamming into a parked car on West Market Street, setting off a chain reaction crash that left 3 other parked cars damaged.
I just heard a bunch of commotion. I went outside and I asked what was going on, and they said that somebody hit 4 cars on the street.
Again, stop with all the fucking tattoos, face tattoos and neck tattoos. It makes you look stupid.
And my car was one of the cars.
Stephen Rockich works as a bartender at Square Nightclub. His car was second in the line and totaled. The front end smashed up.
You described it like it was smashed like an accordion.
Yep, just totally, you can literally see the hood of the car was like that.
2 officers who were in that cruiser and a man getting out of one of those parked cars went to hospitals with minor injuries. Stephen is now forced to find rides to work, and 9 days later, he hasn't heard from Akron police.
Honestly, I don't really know why it's taking this long. It's like if the cops smashed into the cars, I feel like the cops should just be paying right now. So I have insurance, I have comprehensive and liability, but I don't have collision, and it's considered a collision type of incident, so my insurance won't cover any of it.
News 5 obtained the crash
Of
report
course
that
they
shows
won't, because insurance is a scam too. You can think you are covered for everything you need, and on page 97, subsection 12, subsection 42, subsection 93, it'll say, oh, well, if it was a Wednesday and it was the 3rd Wednesday of September and it was cold outside, you're not covered.
2. The police cruiser was at fault. Police say the cruiser was responding at a high rate of speed to an emergency burglary call with its emergency lights activated. But when the officers swerved to avoid another car making a U-turn, the cruiser slammed into the line of parked cars.
I care
Only had a siren, no light, or only had his lights, no siren.
about this area in my neighborhood, and I want answers too.
Community organizer Fran Wilson has been looking into the cruiser crash. The report states police
Cruiser
didn't activate
crash.
sirens
We need to
until
make
just
some
before
shirts.
the crash. APD's emergency response policy says the use of warning lights without a siren may be tactically efficient.
The use of warning lights without a siren, maybe. See, this is some bullshit. They're trying to get out in front of it. It's totally ridiculous. My argument is, even if he had his sirens on, he is outrunning them by a lot. Nobody would have time by the time they heard the siren, to, especially when making U-turn, to react. He's totally at fault. Qualified immunity.
but the practice is also extremely dangerous.
I would love to see a review of how police operate their own vehicles when they use
Would you? Good luck with that. Go do a ride along. You want to see a shit show? Go do a ride along.
their sirens, and a little bit more accountability for when that's misused.
Captain Michael Miller says the officers involved in the Highland Square crash are under internal review.
Taking a methodical, intentional look at both sides of it from a crash investigation standpoint, and also
They're not. There are avoidance of liability, qualified immunity.
from a policy standpoint.
Meanwhile, Stephen's frustration is growing more than a week after the incident, still waiting for answers as to who will pay to help him get a replacement car.
It's literally just a waiting game. I don't know how long it could take, so it could be like weeks, months, I don't know.
We reached out to the city to ask if there's protocol to reimburse owners whose cars are damaged by city vehicles. We were told the law department is reviewing this case. The internal review of the cruiser crash could last several more days, even weeks, as the department tries to figure out if the officers violated the emergency response policy, and if so, should there be any disciplinary action.
There should absolutely be disciplinary action. They should be fired. Their certification should be burnt, and they should never be allowed to be law enforcement ever, never again. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. Like, share, and feel free to subscribe. It's free. I'm out.
In Akron, Bob Jones, News 5.
Now, we did reach out to the president of Akron Police Union, who confirmed the internal reviews being conducted. He has no further comment other than that.